Welcome back to the Sports News. We are looking into a sport with growing popularity in the state. We're talking rugby. Head coach Rich Bergman joins us from the Oregon Stoughton Rugby Club, and Bruce Hill is here with the Youth Sports Director for Madison United Rugby. That's a mouthful, turns out. How are you guys all doing today?
Good, thank you.
So glad to see you all, and teammates behind you as well. So we've got a lot to cover, so we're kind of going to get down to it, but we're going to start with Madison United Rugby. So why don't you give us just a little bit of background on this team?
Sure. Madison United Rugby is a 501c3 nonprofit that was incorporated in 2008. We're comprised of all the rugby clubs in the Madison area and operate the Wisconsin Rugby Club Sports Complex out in Cottage Grove as well. Those clubs are, we have 3 senior division clubs, meaning adult, 2 collegiate teams, UW men and women, and 4 high school clubs, one of which is very well represented here today. I just want to quickly add, got to get this in, that the Wisconsin Women's Rugby Football Club is the reigning National 2 Division national champion, and the Wisconsin Rugby Club, men's side, I think last won the national championship in 2013. I think that's the right year.
Well, incredible. Thanks for sharing that. And let's talk a little bit about the youth flag rugby program. Now, you actually ran this program for 6 years. Are you going to be doing that again this coming summer?
Well, we're going to do it, but in a much bigger way. We've learned some lessons over the past 6 years, and this summer we're excited that we're going to be partnering with a total of 8 different recreation departments in the Madison-Dane County area. The 6 that are scrolling by on the ticker will be part of our 6-week summer program. Oregon and Monona are going to join us with a pilot program after school during the spring at an elementary school in each community.
That's incredible. That's great. So you're expecting a lot more kids this year. And talk to us a little bit about the coaching staff, what that's going to look like with such an influx.
Well, Madison United and the clubs of it are strongly committed to supporting expanded opportunities for youth rugby in the Madison area. So our coaches come from the playing ranks of all those clubs I mentioned. We had just one high school coach last year, but we're going to expand that quite a bit this summer, and we'll get some referees out of that group as well. I'd just add that most of all of our site coordinators will be USA Rugby certified as coaches, and we do standard background checks, and then they all get some local coaching and training from yours truly.
All right, great group of coaches. Well, let's talk a little bit about, for folks out there who are maybe interested, like I said earlier, this is obviously a growing sport. Who are you targeting in terms of group? So what's kind of the best age group in your opinion?
Well, what we've done so far, we'd like kids to be, for the summer program, entering 3rd grade is a good starting point for us, and we have them up through those entering 9th grade, at which time they can graduate to high school play, at least the boys so far. We think I can't think of anybody who rugby doesn't have a spot for. It's a high activity level sport with skills that transfer to other sports. And one of the things, Madison United, we think of, a lot of other people have said it as well, but sport is a metaphor for life. So we think we can, with young kids, through our adults, we learn life lessons, and sports helps us do that.
Yeah, absolutely agreed. Let's turn our attention a little bit to the Oregon Stoughton Rugby Club and these great folks we have sitting behind you. Rich, to start, why don't you walk us through sort of the levels of rugby in Wisconsin and how that relates to your team?
Sure, as Bruce mentioned, we have our flag rugby. In middle school, we're starting our tackle sevens, our contact sport, and that leads right into the high school teams. Madison United Rugby, right now we have 4 high school level teams. After that, you can go to collegiate. Every college in Wisconsin has a collegiate team, and from there you have club play, both men's and women's. So you can play rugby from 5th grade on up all the way until you're like Bruce and I, into our 50s and done playing.
That's great to know, though. It's a sport that you can continue throughout life, and I think that's important when youth are choosing sports to get involved in. And talk to us a little bit about the club leagues and club sports throughout the Madison area. How many are there?
There's quite a few of them, actually. Madison is holding the Minotaurs play. We have a men's D2 and also a D3, and we have our women's teams as well as our 2 collegiate teams, both men's and women's, at the university.
And I want to talk a little bit about the high school state championships and talk to us, what is the All Wisconsin Rugby Fest? What is
Sure.
that?
So we have our high school state boys championship. It's this year, it's June 4th in Cottage Grove. Simultaneous with that going on, all the other clubs that have played throughout the course of the season, we put into an All Wisconsin Rugby Fest. So they're playing for their pools and their bracketing out in conjunction with the state tournament itself. It's at Cottage Grove, and it's a big weekend of just a lot of rugby.
And real quick before we go, let's talk a little bit about what is projected for the Wisconsin Rugby Club Sports Complex in Cottage Grove, as you mentioned.
Absolutely. So it's growing. There's a lot of input for the state of Wisconsin, not only to put the museum there for rugby nationally, but also start building our clubhouse, locker rooms, and so forth to really grow that complex.
Yeah, what a great growing sport for folks to get involved in, and youth in particular. Thanks so much for sharing that with us today. We're going to be right back with more sports news after this, so stick around.